Well, good afternoon. My name is Dan Brown. I'm on special assignment here with the Training and Safety Division, and we're going to talk about our 2017 Dodge 4500 medic squads. They're diesel-powered, automatic transmission with a built-in exhaust brake. They are four-wheel drive. They're a 94-inch wide body and a little over 7 feet tall with the light. They do have our newest lighting package on it that was agreed to with the Equipment and Apparatus Committee and the focus group from the medics in the field. Your hood release is underneath the eye and medic. Go ahead and lift up the hood and you can start to see inside the engine bay here. We do have a pretty complex electrical system. We have everything labeled as needed, but some things you want to check. Make sure all of your battery components are tight and the fuses are labeled. We do have our breakers here. If you have trouble with it starting or you have trouble with your MDC, check these bus breakers right here. They're not set to off or trip. Coming across the truck here, we do have our various dipsticks. We have our engine oil, our ATF, brake. We have more battery cables over here, power steering fluid and our washer fluid, another set of fuse banks, and back behind here, we have another charger breaker, bus breaker. Make sure that that is not tripped if you're having any issues. If you need to jump start this vehicle for any manner, make sure your radios are all turned off, your MDC is off, and follow the instructions in the manual as far as where to hook up your cables. So like our Ford vans that most of us are used to, we have the ability to install a button here in the front grille. It's 1 o'clock or just off to the right of the ram's head here, the third little notch down. You push this will unlock the whole truck. It will not unlock the whole truck if the batteries are dead. So make sure you pull the key fob out of the ignition and turn it off. So the truck goes to rest and the batteries turn off. We do have the Federal EQ siren. It's very, very similar to a lot of our early 90s, late 90s KMEs. In addition to two 100-watt siren speakers here. And we also have a large 2-trumpet air horn underneath the right front that is air-driven with a compressor inside the body. Coming down the right side of the truck here, we have our Hubble 20-amp plug. This charges both the vehicle and the house batteries that are located here in the truck. Below that, we have our DEF, or diesel exhaust fluid fill. Remember, diesel exhaust fluid is slightly corrosive. If you spill or drip it on your app floor or on any part of the vehicle, wash it off immediately. It's just urea and water, and wipe that up. If you let it dry, it tends to get corrosive. To fill your DEF, you got to loosen your light standard, lift it up out of the way, pull the cord out, and fill the DEF. You can access the DEF through Fleet Services parts section by sending them an email. On our tires, we have the NFPA automatic pressure indicators. Fleet Services does not recommend that you rely on those. They recommend that you pull them off, check your tire pressure, and place them back on with the correct tire pressure. We have our diesel fuel here on the left side. Okay. It's only on the left side. It's not the dual fuel system, single tank. Below that, we have chock block holder. If you're parking on a very steep slope or the vehicle is now malfunctioning, you need to leave it. Make sure that you place your chock blocks appropriately. There's two to be stored in this compartment at all times. In the back of the vehicle here, we have a large storage area. Behind these doors, we have a directional area. We do have a tow hitch with a 7-pin connector if wherever you need to tow. And then our tow removal hooks in case you get stuck. Behind this door, they open and lock. Open. We have an extend-a-bed slide that's rated to 1,500 pounds. We have future storage for a Stokes, a backboard, and then we have a small ladder here so you can access Knox keys without the presence of an engine company. Here we are in the cab of our new Dodge trucks. Okay, we have a smart steering wheel here that has some volume controls for the radio, as well as you can sync your phone to the Bluetooth. We do have our cruise control. Our light control is over here on the left. It's very simple, just leave it on auto. And below that is the fog lamps. As you can see here, our ignition key is no longer really a key, it's kind of a fob. It's very simple. You have to have your foot on the brake in order to turn the vehicle on. With the vehicle off, you turn it to run, to start. You wait for A few seconds for the gauges to cycle through and go ahead and start the truck. All of our new squads are four-wheel drive. It's an automatic transfer case. There's no shift like some of our older Ford trucks. So in order to shift to four-wheel drive, you can shift on the fly, as stated in the manual, into four-wheel drive to the lock position. And most of us know that as four-wheel drive high. In order to shift into the four-wheel drive low position, you need to pull the vehicle into neutral and click it over to 4 low, and you should have an indicator on the dash and it'll show it engaged and ready to go. In order to get back out of 4 low, go to neutral through 4 lock, back into 2-wheel drive. If for whatever reason you hit this neutral button down here, the neutral button will disable the transfer case and the parking setting and the transmission will no longer work. So this vehicle will freewheel. Okay, so the only time you're going to be hitting that neutral button is if you need to tow it up onto a flatbed trailer, and that's probably not what we're going to be doing in the field. We'll let the tow operators deal with that. So to review, 4 lock within the parameters within the manual, 4 low is going to be into neutral, and then put it back into drive. I want to talk a little bit about 4-wheel drive. In the Engineers Academy with our Type 3s, we teach to drive the vehicle in 2-wheel drive until you need 4-wheel drive for traction. If you're in 4-wheel drive, especially in this medic van, you should reconsider your plan and your point of access should be reevaluated. The 4-wheel drive should be treated as a plan to get you out of being stuck versus a plan to get you into a scenario where you may or may not be able to get out safely and preserve the vehicle. In most of our medium to light size vehicles, we've moved to the Code 3Z3 siren control. It's very similar to some of our older controls because you have this 3-position switch. The first position activates the rear and all the ambers. The second position activates all the emergency lights, and the third position activates all the lights, including the siren. The initial siren, the electric sirens that are in the grill, is here. You can either hit the manual, you can hit the wail or the yelp tones, and then over here to the right, we have our traffic controller. It's going to default to a flash pattern. Okay, you can push vehicles 2 different directions, left or right, or an overall flash pattern. Every time you turn this off, it should default to that flash pattern. In addition to the siren controls, all of our exterior lighting is here. We have the left and right alleys that are located in our light bar. We have the left and right floods, which is the telescoping light and the midship small light above the rear axle. We have the takedown lights, which are the 2 fronts in our light bar. And then we have our rear lights if we want to activate our rear lights independently. The rear light should be coming on with reverse. If not, you can always hit this rear button. The last 2 are blank and not used for anything. These buttons here in the center are all upfitter buttons. AUGs 1 through 4 and the PTO we are not using. Okay? This is the built-in trailer brake controller. We are not using that as a general rule. We have our traction control button. We have our tow haul button. And then we have our exhaust brake button and our parking sensor in the rear. Okay? The tow haul button, we recommend that you drive around with the tow haul button on. It changes a setting in the transmission, allows it to brake and decelerate better, as well as utilizing the exhaust brake. Okay? The traction control off button is if you're getting stuck and you need more throttle to get out of where you need, you can turn that off, but as a general rule, the traction control should be left on. Above here in the center we have our Federal Signal EQ 2B siren control. You find these in a lot of our Type 1 engines. It's very simple. You can hit the button on the floor to cycle it. You can also turn it to wail or yelp. It does have an electric air horn as well. Here in the center we have an aftermarket light that is marked to the telescoping lights and wired to the body doors. When you put this vehicle into drive and the body door is open, you should see this light. If you see that, either your telescoping lights or one of your body doors are open. So do not move this truck when the red light is flashing. In the center console here, we have a couple of different options. We have the aux input and the Bluetooth input. That only goes to the stereo on the truck. It does not go into your headsets. If you're running headsets, there's a headset audio port input here that will allow music to go into your headsets and not interfere with the radio transmission. Okay, this switch here is a switch that's unguarded, so be careful with that. You can select between your VHF or your 800 megahertz radio here on the console. Besides that, we have a Blue C set of USB and 12 volt plugs to plug in all your accessories, and they're switched with a built-in circuit breaker here as well. On the side of our center console here, we have our Blue C voltage meter. This tells you the overall voltage of the vehicle accurately compared to the dash one. You can scroll through the menu. There's the MDC battery. There's the vehicle battery 1 and vehicle battery 2. So you can diagnose if you're having starting or MDC problems. Remember, everything needs to be well over 11.5 volts in order to function correctly. Something that's new in a lot of our smaller vehicles is what we call an ACR switch. It's an automatic charge relay. This is a system that separates the vehicle batteries and separates the house or body batteries. Okay? This switch should always be left in the neutral position. Okay? If for some reason the vehicle will not start, you can add the voltage in from the house batteries to the vehicle batteries by placing this switch in the up position. Okay? Do not run with them on the up position. Okay? But if you need to emergency start a vehicle, that is one way to try to do it. Okay? Place the ACR into the up position. It's going to combine all 4 batteries, and hopefully the vehicle will start. Once it starts, move it back to the neutral position. Do not let it run in the off position, because that turns off the batteries in the back. Okay? If you do happen to turn it from the neutral position to off, you'll hear a large relay click in the body. Make sure you go from neutral to on and then back to neutral again to the auto section. Okay? It will not reset automatically. You have to take it from off all the way to on and back to auto. On our medic squads here, we do have 2 large air horns. It's supplied by a via air compressor that you may hear run on occasion. The way the system is plumbed, it recharges itself on a fairly regular basis. If you hear it running continuously, then there's an air leak problem, and you can shut the motor off inside the center of the body. The horns are located up here in the front right. It's part of your inspection to go up there and make sure all the lines and the piping is okay. Underneath the paramedic sign is a large 2-gallon tank that needs to be drained weekly. Okay? This compressor compresses air, it gets moisture in the system. We don't have an air dryer on this vehicle, so when you do your weekly checkouts, make sure you drain the air out of the via air system to make sure all the moisture comes out. Okay, so you come underneath the vehicle here, you find your drain valve, and you open that up. Once you open that up, if there's no moisture coming out, go ahead and close it. When you restart the rig, you're going to hear the compressor run. It'll refill that tank, and you're ready to go. In the driver's side first compartment, we're going to have our SCBA storage. We have our house batteries, or what I refer to as our house batteries here, and you have one of our big beam flashlights. This area here is not a storage area, okay? The only thing that's allowed to be in here is the battery light. Do not put anything in here just for the risk of shorting out electrical. In the front of this panel, you'll see the Xantrex charging display. When this truck is plugged in, you should see these lights come up. It'll tell you the battery status and the status of the batteries charging. Okay? There's no reason to turn it on or off. Make sure it's on, and it'll speak to you. Behind that panel is a lot more electrical. Again, this is not a storage area at all. Okay? But if you do have MDC problems, there's some more of the ACR switch right here, in addition to some more MDC breakers here in the back. If you have MDC problems, make sure you check these breakers. Make sure they're in the on position. Other than that, please leave this area alone and do not store anything in it. Remember, this vehicle is over a 1-ton dually pickup truck, okay? It's much longer and much wider than your Ford vans that we've been running around in for years. So please drive it differently. Remember that you're going to have to take your corners wider, you're going to have to take longer to stop, okay? And you're not going to fit into some of those narrow driveways. Take your time, put someone on the ground, have a spotter, always have a backer. If you get into very tight spots, you can always move these mirrors, okay? And have someone get on the ground and guide you through those areas. Have fun, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.